Hey there guys, and welcome back to UnJaded Jade. So, you may or may not know that for most of my teenage years, and a lot of my life actually, I wanted to be a vet as like my top career goal. I swear I had like a full-on 10-year plan. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do work experience here, turn 18, I'm gonna be doing maths, biology, chemistry, get 3 A stars, go to this university, graduate with a first, then I'm gonna set up my own practice, then I'm gonna have like a chain of my own practices. Like I had the plan. However, now like I don't really want to be a vet anymore, but I did do a lot of work experience, a lot of prep, a lot of thinking with being a vet in mind, and I can remember looking online, scouring the internet for resources, and there was almost nothing about work experience from people who had done it. There are a few people in America sharing like vet med university videos, but in general there just wasn't a lot. So if this video can help someone who is an aspiring vet or someone who is thinking about a career in something to do with animals, and I really just hope it helps because I wish I'd had something like this. Okay, so there's gonna be a lot to cover, but rough structure of this video is I'm gonna tell you about all the work experience things I did, I'm gonna tell you about how I got them, advice, things I learnt from doing all this work experience, yeah, and just advice, I guess, and also some little stories from along the way. So as you're probably aware, veterinary medicine is crazily competitive. Like, so competitive, and a lot of it is also work experience based, and your personal statement has to be predominantly talking about what you've learnt from doing work experience. I think it's Liverpool as well, like you have to have minimum 10 weeks of work experience because they're like super practical based. That might have changed now that I'm thinking about it, but at the time I remember that was how it was. Because I knew I wanted to be a vet early, I started work experience as early as I possibly could. I've done horse riding since I was 9 years old, and when I was 13, literally the week after my 13th birthday, I started volunteering as a stable hand every single Saturday for 2 years at my stables. I would get there for 9, I wouldn't leave till 5, and all day long I was basically doing physical hard labour on the yard. Anything they wanted me to do, I would do it. I would tack up horses, I would go on hacks, I'd be the person at the back of a hack looking after the kids and like opening the gate while on horseback. I'd muck out all the stables, I'd get wheelbarrows full of stuff, like fill hay nets in the morning, bring all the hay nets round to the horses. I would clean all the tack, I would do all the hoovering, I would basically do anything they wanted, and it wasn't very glamorous, I'm not gonna lie, and it was tough, but I learned a hell of a lot doing it. I ended up stopping just because it was quite a huge commitment when I started doing GCSEs. I also felt like the treatment became a little bit like, I don't know, I felt like because I was obviously doing it all for free, sometimes they weren't the kindest. So yeah, I passed my time there. I basically then used any half term or Easter or holiday I had where I was free and available. I tried to fill it with animal related work experience, and I got super prepared. Like I would start booking them about a year in advance because that is sometimes how early you have to like be. So I did 1 week work experience at a farm. It was like a working farm as well as like an entertainment, children can come and like see the animals kind of thing. That was interesting because I've never worked with a lot of livestock like chickens, goats, sheep, cows. Like I just never really worked with them. I also did a week at an animal sanctuary, like animal rescue. That was predominantly small animal, and I was mainly looking after the dogs in the kennels, which I loved. Again, hard physical labour. And I'd never worked with like birds before. Like they had loads of budgies and I had to go in and like feed them and like do stuff with them, and I had never done that before, so that was interesting. I did 1 week in a veterinary practice, and I wish I'd probably gotten more, but the thing is, they were so hard to get at the age that I was, and you had to book them literally a year in advance because they were just booked up and booked up. But I went to a small animal practice. It was the one that like I'd been taking my rabbits to and my dog to. I also did a week at a kennels, which is the one that like I took my dog to. I basically just cleaned a lot. And then I was also fortunate enough to do a 6-week course at the zoo, and initially I was a little bit like, oh, because I'm not sure how like I felt about zoos. For me, there are always such a pros and cons list with the concept of a zoo, and I'm still a bit like, it's not something I love to partake in, as going to zoos. I kind of wanted to do the experience also to feel more educated on the concept of a zoo, and also to get experience with the incredible animals that a zoo does have. So I applied the year before for this course and I didn't get on. I was kind of gutted. But the year after, I applied again, you know, persistence, and I did get on, and it was amazing. It was like every weekend for, I'm not sure if it was 6 or 8 weeks, but it was a good period. I would go to the zoo, and each week was focused on a different animal group. We would muck out places, we'd feed the animals, we'd get involved in enrichment, we would have like theory lessons. It was amazing. And even for me doing biology, like zoology is so linked into biology, so that was very insightful. So that is the work experience that I ended up doing. I did some odd days in places, but that's kind of this is what I would count as my experience. Okay, so what did I learn from doing all these things? The first thing is that working with animals is physical, hard work, just like in general. So like I became a pro sweeper in my time working at the stables. Like give me a broom, I know how to sweep. I was carrying huge wheelbarrows. When I got really good at it, I could load like 10 hay nets, all like in a really perfect synchronized combination on this wheelbarrow, and then like lift it up, hike it up, and then like go around the whole yard and bring it over to another place, grab all the hay nets and like lift them and give them to all the horses. I was mounting kids onto horses. I was mucking out for hours, you know. And not only is it physically exhausting, but it's also dirty work. Like a lot of animal feces that you're dealing with. Number of times I cleaned up like urine or like vomit of animals at like veterinary practices. So even though the clinical environment of being like a small animal vet is so sanitized and clean, in order to become a vet and you've got to do all this experience, you can't be scared of getting your hands dirty. And I'm kind of glad that I started at such a young age, like 13. It just made me immune to like, I don't know, gross stuff. I really don't mind anymore. And the second thing that goes along with that is I learned to work hard. And the funny thing was I wasn't making money off of doing these things. I was literally there out of choice, you know, some days the whole day doing all these tasks that people were asking of me, and I just, you know, you just get on with it. Especially when it was like my half-term holiday from school and all my friends were like relaxing, you know, getting their work done or like going out or going on holiday, and I was like, you know, cleaning up like dog poo at an animal rescue. You just learn to be super proactive in the way that you approach your time, and yeah, it just taught me to like get stuck in and just do stuff. I learned that I hate asking for help, and I just hated it. Like I really never wanted to ask for help. If I didn't know what I was doing, I would try and work it out for myself, which sometimes went wrong. For so long, I didn't know how to put a rug on a horse properly. But I'd seen people do it so many times that when someone asked me to rug up a horse, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it, why not? And then I was sat in there with this horse with a rug trying to put it on about 5 times, and it just didn't work. And it was so embarrassing, I just didn't want to go ask. And then I just had to keep trying until I eventually worked it out. It's taught me that in your work experience situations, ask for help if you need it. Just ask questions in general, because they are more than happy to help. It's better than doing it wrong. But at the same time, don't be annoying with your questions. Like if people are clearly busy, try and get on with it yourself and don't like pester them, but at the same time, if you're not sure, just ask. The third thing, quite obviously, I learnt how to deal with a lot of animals. I'm such an animal person, I love animals, and I got into some strange situations with animals. And it was scorching hot, it was like the middle of summer, and I was just there running around like trying to get all these sheep to like work with me. I had to go into fields, approach cows, and like put a head collar on them and like lead them back into like stable pen places. I've been stood on by so many horses that I can't even count. I've dealt with horses being really grouchy and like turning around and nipping you and having to just like deal with that, I guess. At my time at the farm, I got to go with the vet when she vaccinated like 100 goats, and I was the one who like basically stood over the goats and like held their horns while she would vaccinate them, which was, you know, like tough work. It made me realise how strong and powerful like these animals are. I've done so many things with like rabbits and cute little fluffy animals. I actually had no experience with cats either, and as a child I think that they were probably the animal I was a little bit wary of, just because my brother's allergic, my dad's allergic, and I didn't really know any cats. But in my time at the animal rescue, I was in the cattery for like a while, and if I finished my work early, I got to just go in and sit with all the cats and just like stroke them. I learned that there is so much cleaning involved in a veterinary practice. It was insane. Like I was aiding the veterinary nurses most of the time because, you know, I'm not a qualified vet, so I don't have all the experience to properly help the vet, but I was scrubbing the floors, scrubbing the tables, scrubbing the walls, all the walls, and we were doing it like 7 times a day, like constantly. It would be like, yeah, okay, clean again. I'd go into all the kennels and we would just like clean every little surface again and again. And I understand it has to be sanitized, like I completely get it. It was kind of exhausting, just like the cleaning. I also got scratched and bitten a lot. Sick animals are not always happy animals, and you kind of just have to adjust. Something I learned from all this work experience, I was so shy when I started this journey of work experience. I found it so impossibly hard to talk to the other stable hands, the girls my age, when I started at the stables. And I can remember just being awkward. I can remember like we were sweeping, and I could hardly sweep because I had never done it before. I was with this other girl, and like I can remember feeling so conscious of everything I was saying, like I was just too awkward to like properly converse. And that's another thing about being on work experience in general. A lot of the time you are there to be a shadow and to observe and to learn. This goes for all work experience. Like I've done something at a magazine company and it was much the same. You're not fully a part of their team, so you are somewhat just like watching, and that can be awkward. It can be really awkward. Like you're watching someone doing a task and you don't want to distract them, but then it's kind of like just silence, and a lot of the time you're just sitting there like in silence. It took me years to come out of my shell and like properly speak to people in a conversational way. I can remember being so terrified of adults when I was like 13, 14. I couldn't talk to them like a normal person. I don't know what it is, I just felt intimidated. So all this work massively just helped me. And I've got a story about how being conversational is so important. So I was working on the farm. There were 3 of us on work experience, 2 other people. One of them was on a gap year applying for vet med the next year. And at 10 AM every day, we would go into this weird little porter cabin thing with a small table around it. All of the staff who worked at the farm, all the livestock staff, everyone, they would gather in this little porter cabin and they would sit around this table for like morning brunch or morning breakfast. And we, as the work experience people, were designated to sit on the edges of the room. We would just kind of sit in silence and just like eat a snack. And the people around the centre of the table would chat and like ha, and we would on the edges just kind of like be silent. When I started, that was very much the tone of the room, and you just kind of adapt to it because you don't want to change it, you're on work experience. There was this one woman who led the table in the middle, and she was kind of scary. She was like the head livestock person. She had been there for like 20 years. Her tone was kind of intimidating. Like she clearly could dig into people if she wanted to. And I was scared of her, I guess. I didn't want to disappoint her at all. And at 10 AM, I think on my second day, she turned to me. So they were all in a conversation on this table, and then she turned over to me and like looked me in the eyes, and I was like, what have I done? And she asked me if I would like to join them on the middle table. She gestured to a chair right next to her at the head of the table and was like, would you like to come and sit here? Now I know that the easiest thing to do in this situation would be to be like, oh no, it's okay, like you guys are the staff, like you enjoy it and I'll just sit here on the corners and like be silent like a work experience person. But the way that she phrased it was like a challenge. To me, I could feel that it was almost a test of character, this question that she was posing. So despite the fact I was terrified and the atmosphere felt so oppressive, of course I said yes. So I joined them on the middle table, and she asked me loads of questions. Like no one else was talking on this table because she kind of ran it. And so it was all silent and everyone was just like listening to me answering questions. But do you know what is crazy? After that day, she started trusting me with the better tasks. Compared to the other 2 work experience people, she always would use my name in conversation. She would put me with people who were doing more interesting things. And then when it came down to it, when the vet arrived to do the vaccinations for the goats, she picked me to go and shadow the vet, not the other 2. Which is kind of, it was sad, it felt really awkward for me in a way. At the same time, I was like, wow, if I hadn't taken up that position at the table and just talked to her and really made an effort, because like from that moment I really did make an effort with her, even though I was still kind of scared, she would not have given me that experience. And she became so helpful in my time there because I kept asking her questions. So for example, when the vet came, I asked if I could have a copy of the the leaflet from the drugs that they've been giving the sheep, and she was so accommodating. She like went into this room and like got me the leaflet out, and like I took it home and I did my research about the drug. So my advice to you is be super proactive with the people that you meet there. That's a mistake I made when I went to the veterinary practice when I was like 15 or something. I was too shy and I hardly talked. I didn't make an impression on any of them. I silently observed, but like I know I was being useless. And I think the danger is if you start the first few days as a really quiet shadow, you create this reputation for yourself that's very hard to get away from, and for the rest of the experience you fit into that quiet role. So go in, be confident, be chatty, ask questions, ask literally any question you can think of, because they want to hear from you. They want you to seem interested, and if you're quiet and silent because you're scared to talk, which was me, then it looks like you're disinterested. So look motivated, ask the questions. And the next bit of advice I have is so important. Keep a diary every day of your work experience, because the thing is, you're gonna forget what is happening each day. Even though you might be exhausted from a physical day of labour, come home, get out your special diary and write what you did that day. I wish I had my book with me right now so that I could refresh my memory. When it comes to writing an application for uni, in that interview room they're gonna ask you for stories about your work experience placement, and if all you can remember is that you shadowed a vet and you don't really know what was going on, then that's kind of not good enough. So do yourself a favour, every day write a diary and get specific. What have you learnt today to do with the veterinary profession? What have you learnt about these species of animals? What have you learnt about like animal care and like handling of animals? And like I did at the farm, I would really recommend getting leaflets of drugs that they use if you can, just because then you can go and do your research, or even just get the name of them and like type it in your notes in your phone. That's another good point as well, actually. When you're on work experience, don't use your phone if you can. Just get off of it. Be as present as possible with the people there. And how did I even get these work experience things, you ask? It is so hard when you are under 18 to get experience in general, especially if you don't live in a place with farms. Like I didn't really. I live in a town quite near London, and like this farm I went to wasn't an active farm. It was more of like a people, families thing, come and view the farm. Be persistent with your emails, your phone calls, get them on the phone, because the thing is, it's so much harder to say no to someone when you're selling yourself on the phone than if you just got an email with like a few words that they can easily click through and delete. Or go and see them in person, go to the vets, go up to the counter, be like, hi, I want to do work experience here. Can I? Again, a lot harder to turn you down. In your emails, be passionate. Even if you've got no experience yet, be super passionate about why you want to work there. Mention the fact that you don't mind getting your hands dirty, that you're super keen. Don't do the whole like, oh, since I was 5, all I've ever wanted to do is be a vet, just because it's a little bit cliche. Anything that shows passion, any previous experience you've got, write it all in. Show them that you really want to be there and that you're keen to learn. Almost every single day I would type into Google animal related work experience volunteering. Like I was so keen, I literally did it every day. I couldn't work at like Battersea Dogs and Cats Home or anywhere like that because you all had to be over 18. But you know, I found an animal rescue that I could go to, even though it was a bit further away and I had to commute. Try and work at a pet shop. That zoo thing was the product of a lot of research and persistence, because the first time around I got rejected from it, you know? Also use your contacts, because even though you often have to be over 18, if someone knows you personally, they are a lot more likely to just let you do it early. This has been a very long video. I think I've filmed about 45 minutes. But yeah, I really hope this helped in some way. Oh, another story I wanted to tell. Okay, so I got to watch a little bulldog being neutered. I'm thankfully not very squeamish, so I didn't really mind the like surgery experience. But you know, I got to wear my scrubs, I got to go in there, like, oh, there was like an issue with the airflow of oxygen, and like there was an alarm going off and it was a bit stressful, that experience. Wish I had my diary because I can't remember the specifics of what happened, but yeah. So obviously neutering is where they cut off the testicles of a male animal. And after I'd watched this neutering happen, the vet put the testicles on a tray, put a scalpel on the tray, and then gave me the testicles. So she had to go downstairs and like deal with something, but she left me with the scalpel and with these 2 testicles, and she was like, enjoy your dissection. And now I think I would find it so much more interesting, but at the time I was like 50 and I was sat there with a scalpel like prodding these testicles that I had seen attached to this dog like half an hour ago, and like I cut it and like hit a vein and like blood was going everywhere, and I was like, what am I doing? Literally, like they all left, so I was just left there with these testicles. It would have been more interesting if I'd actually known what I was looking at, because in the end I was just kind of like touching it like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But yeah, if you are interested in doing veterinary medicine, get yourself doing some work experience, because that is where you will realise if it is the career for you or not. The hours are crazy long, the labour is hard and intensive, it is not an easy career to get into, and it is not as well paid as people think, but it is equally a very rewarding career. So yes, do as much as you can, be persistent, be resilient with your emails, chat to people, learn, get your hands dirty, don't say no to tasks, send them follow-up emails after, because you never know if you could go back there during your degree when you've got to do your extramural studies. So yeah, despite the fact that I don't want to be a vet anymore, I'm very, very glad that I did all this experience, because I think it has helped shape who I am today 100%. Hit me up in the comments with videos that you would like on this topic if you would like any more. I'm obviously not qualified in any way, and I'm not doing veterinary medicine at uni right now either, so I'm not the best person to talk on this topic, but I thought I would share my experience anyway. Thank you so much for watching. Please give it a like, because I did sit and plan for a while. Bye!